What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Great topic today. The car ride home is not for coaching. And obviously, it's a discussion as always, but we really dive into this not just the car ride home from the game, but the car ride to the game, and dive into kind of that ethical discussion of what's commonplace, what's right, what's wrong. And again, we give our opinions. We want to hear from you as well, but the discussion that was created is definitely going to make you think a little bit about the game. All right. So before we jump into it, as always, before every episode, check out whenhockeystops.com. Get your early access copy of the book that Christy and I wrote. It's a children's book. It deals with adversity. What happens when you can't play the thing that you love the most? And our main character, Leon, has to deal with that and find his way forward through the game. It's getting unbelievable reviews. You've seen a lot of those out right now if you're following our channels. Everybody from Ryan Whitney to Daniel Briere to Rick Nash have really endorsed the book. We're humbled by it. We can't believe the praise it's getting. But obviously, this audience is super important to us. This is the audience that inspired us to write the book. So check it out, whenhockeystops.com. Get your early access copy now, signed with a bunch of extra exclusive gifts that you're not going to get on the Amazons and the Barnes & Nobles and everywhere else where the book is available. But without further ado, thank you so much. Enjoy this episode again. Car ride, not for coaching. Do you agree? Disagree? Listen to the episode. Here we go. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Got a great topic for you today. Let's set the scene, right? The game has ended. Maybe you won, maybe you lost, but the game has ended. Your little boy or girl is getting dressed. They're taking way too long in the locker room because that's what little boys and girls do. You finally get them dressed. You get them out to the car, sticks in the car, bag in the car. You're probably figuring, do I go eat? Do we go home? And then you're driving, and you want to say something to your child about the game. You have to tell them about the game. You got to ask them about the game. Or maybe you're one of those parents who doesn't. Either way, today's topic is all about the car is not for coaching. I'm not going to lie to you. I have a hard time with this myself as a coach, as someone who's been involved in a long time with the game. I'm joined, as always, by my good friends, Christy Casciano-Burns and Mike Benelli. I'm going to get their thoughts on it too. And just in case you didn't know, the way this topic came up is obviously something that we deal with during the season, but was looking in Christy's book, My Kids Play Hockey, right? I look in there sometimes for episode ideas, not that there's ever any shortage of ideas, but just something that, hey, maybe it'll spark something. First one I looked at, cars not for coaching. I said, hey, Christy, we're going to do a whole episode on this. Let's get Benelli. Let's jump on with the gang and all our loyal listeners who are here. And before we jump in, I do want to say we're getting a lot of emails from fans. We're getting a lot of interaction. Really appreciate you watching and listening to this show, however you consume it. Your subscriptions and reviews are really appreciated. You're really making this something special. And a lot of people, guys, saying, wow, I didn't know I thought I was alone. It's just so great to hear other people talk about it. That's exactly why we do it. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Christy, I'm going to go right to you because you wrote the article about the car.
We've all done it. Raise your hands out there. Who's done that? You do some car coaching. Come on. We've all done it. And what I found is the kids really tune you out when you do that. They know if they had a bad game, they know they had a bad game. They're mentally exhausted, they're physically exhausted. And really the last thing they want to hear is you, wah, 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 wah. They tune you out. Also, what I found that could be a really good time to bond with the kids if you just get away from talking about the game. Switch the subject. Unless they want to talk about it, let them drive the conversation. If they bring it up, fine, talk about it. Hey, what'd you do right? What'd you do wrong? Did you have fun? Always weave that in the conversation. Did you have fun? Were you a good teammate out there? Are there things that you could have worked on? That's fine if you want to talk about that. But chances are they want to move on. They want to turn the page. They want to put the music up. They just want to forget about it. Let them.
I'll turn over to you, Mike. I want to get your thoughts on this because look, I'm severely guilty of this at times, and I know I shouldn't do it. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this today is because it'll probably help me. We always say the show's therapy for the three of us to not do it. But Mike, what are your thoughts on this? Because especially as coaches, you and I, and Christy, I'm not excluding you from that. I think you're actually on a little bit of a higher ground here than us because you don't coach like that. But as coaches, it's so hard not to replay the game in your head. And then, you care about your kid. You want to tell your kid all this stuff, but the truth is, like Christy said, the kid doesn't probably care, and they don't really know that we're doing it for that reason. So, Mike, why don't you give me your experiences and advice, guys? I need some advice on this myself.
Yeah, I'm probably more of a car conversationalist. I think I don't mind
situational screamer.
and a
car
car.
conversationalist. You're good at
Yeah.
this, Mike.
But I think well, I think I enjoy if my kids are in the car and want to talk about hockey,
Sure.
I'll talk about hockey. And most of the time it'll be, because I'm the adult, hopefully in the room there, I can steer the conversation into positive conversations about the game. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, if you would have done this, look at what you could have done here, or that play, and I'm in a different situation too with right now currently, because for one of my kids, I'm coaching him, the other kids I'm not. But if I'm in the, I can't, my son wants to be like, oh, can you believe what's his name did that? I'm like, well, and so now I gotta really think about, well, I'm not gonna talk about another player just because I wouldn't want another parent talking about my player.
Right.
And their inability to play. But if you can keep it positive and keep it conversational, like just about, oh my God, that team was pretty fun to play against. Look at that team. Look at that. You remember that kid from 2 years ago? He's really gotten better. Or wow, look at the, look what you were able to do out there in a lot of situations. Sometimes that is therapy for the kids too. I think what we kind of get in trouble with is the piece of coaching. Like, what the hell were you doing out there in that situation? Or can you, and on my side, what I try to remind my parents is it can't be, oh my God, Benelli he just doesn't want to win. He doesn't know how to win. Like, this guy doesn't know how to coach. And you know what he should have done here? And I saw this, and do you know what Jimmy's parents said? They said, you should be on his line. And I'm like, right. And all that, then talk about tuning out, right, Christy? It just, what it's doing is it almost is reinforcing maybe the negative piece of the game that you experienced, and now you're just going into the next game getting teed up to be negative again. And it is hard. Listen, I get it. There's no doubt about it. And it's a culture of, I laugh all the time when we go to NHL games, and 2 minutes into a game, you'll hear the greatest fans in the world bitching and moaning and crying about a play. Like, I cannot believe that guy didn't get in front of that shot. I'm like, you get in front of that shot. Yeah. I said, you're 270 at 5'11", over here, or whatever you are, and you're worried about getting in front of a shot. I said, are you crazy?
I can see that person in my head.
Yeah, and I'm like,
it's also a danger of undermining what the coach is trying to do too.
Well, it's just because, right? Just because imagine if every day you came home from work and you said, oh God, that day was tough, and your wife or your husband or your significant other said, yeah, it was, because that guy doesn't know how to use you. That person has zero idea about your ability. And then you did it again. And then again, how are you going to go into the place that you're working and the place that you're with every day? And again, I'm not saying you have to spin things, in make-believe world, but you also have to understand you're in a structure. Hey, we know going in, we got it. What are some of the things, what are some of the things you did? Now, I don't know if I talk about that in the car though. Like I said, I would talk about the conversation should revolve around just the game, the fun, the rink, the hot chocolate. Wow. Can't wait for practice. What do you do? What are we doing this week? And then let the negative and the positive, because I think we all want to talk about the positive stuff, right? Kid scores 4 goals. It's a great ride home. Your kid is on the ice for 4 goals against. It's misery. And I think
it's a very long ride home.
Long ride home.
One.
So I think just like we say to coaches, like I just did actually a course a couple of days ago with a group of coaches where even your demeanor going into the room, we've talked about this in our show about you can't just go into the room after the games all hunky-dory and flowers and candies after a win and then shun the kids after a loss. Like there's got to be medium. So in my opinion, if you're going to be a conversational dad or mom in the car, be that way all the time.
Right. And
be that way in a structured, like you need to structure yourself. Like you need to give yourself the parameters of where you want to go.
So I want to organize this topic a little bit, because Mike, there's a few things I definitely want to pull a thread on. And I think what we need to do, and one of the things I like about the show, is kind of discuss the do's and don'ts from our point of view. I'll always say to the listeners, like, these are opinions, they're not facts or anything like that. This is just, where we come from. But I want to start with the don'ts. Something you said earlier that I was like, oh, I got to bring that up, is commiserating about other people on the team or comparing your kid to other people on the team. Like these are my big no-nos for me. All right. Like when I'm in the car with my kid, if I'm talking, right. And again, I have to be better about this. I'll be very vulnerable with that. But the things I'm trying to teach are accountability, effort, like the core values of him as a person, and striving to be better. Is nothing to do with really the team. But parents, I have to say this. If you are comparing your kid to another kid on the team, there are ways to do that can be conducive to helping, but most of the time it's negative. And if you are commiserating about decisions that the coaching staff made to a certain point, you're actually hurting the team and you're hurting your own kid. And I'll tell you why. All right, because you're teaching your kid to not be accountable. I'm not going to say that there are not situations where there's bad coaches or bad situations that you need to convey that to your child. I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. It totally exists. But you have to question the situation of, okay, is that the situation I'm in? And then what am I teaching that kid? So I'll give you an example. Let's just say you're in a situation where you really don't like the coach of your team, or you don't think they're doing a good job. It happens. It exists. I'm not going to, again, deny that. Do you want to teach your kid that it's the coach's fault that you're not doing better, and that if you had a better coach, you'd do better? Or is the lesson, this is the situation we're in, you have to take action and you have to move it to the next level? I was just interviewing somebody the other day. Oh no, we were interviewing. It was Daryl Belfry made this great point about at practice, about coaches doing the same drill over and over and over again at practice. And Belfry said, he says, it's not the coach's fault. It's what are you doing to make that drill more conducive to you? It's the same thing in the car. All right. Your child is going to have a boss, a teacher, friends that do this to them in their life. So you need to teach them the skills of, okay, that's the hand you've been dealt. How are we going to deal with it? Don't just commiserate about the problem. You're not going to help them. And also, parents, I'm going to get daggers for this. This is a reflection of you as well. You might be teaching your kid your bad habits too. Again, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that too. We all are, all right? Because we care so much. You don't want your kid to be in any pain. I get it. But I oftentimes reflect on myself of like, I talked too much to my kid after the game. I really should have been better. And I'm projecting my wants, and this has nothing to do with him. He doesn't even care about the game after it's over at the mite level, right? To be fair. All right. But that's the first don't commiserate too much. Don't put the onus on other people, and do not compare your kid to another kid on the team. Don't say, hey, did you see what Rebecca did out there? How she skated? You have to do that. That's not the right way of doing that. All right. In my opinion, and Mike, Christy, you can comment on this. If you're going to do something like that, it's, I love how Rebecca skates so hard. What can we do to get you to do that? What do you think we can do to work on at home to get you to that speed? That's a better way of doing it. And you don't even have to bring up Rebecca, to be honest with you, at that point. But don't compare your kid to other kids. Don't blame it on the entire coaching staff. If there's a situation that happened, it's how are you going to deal with the situation internally, accountability wise? That's my opinion. That's the type of messages that I do try and give. And when I do talk, I feel like I do that. It's not this kid did bad. It's, Logan, what could we have done differently to be better in that situation? That's my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Christy.
No, I was never into the whole comparison with skaters unless my kids bring it up. They might say, wow, look at the speed that, Michael has. Yeah, he's, we'll talk about it. Do you know why he has that kind of speed? He practices every day, and, he has a speed coach, or he has, this kind of, do you want that? You can bring that up. Is that something that you want? Is that
Great
something
point.
you want to work on? I'll help you. But we never really got into the whole comparison thing.
No, I don't think you would, Chris. I've seen parents do it though. And it bugs me. Like I said, I don't think any of us on this panel are like that, but I'm trying to take myself. I've seen the bad, and I've seen kids do that. But the point you just made that I want to reiterate is, and I love that because that's how it is too. I've had my own kids say, well, this kid scores every game.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, well, yeah, kid plays on 3 teams. Right. So what we did is I said, look, what I can do, Logan, is I said, I can make a hockey gym in our basement. We could practice more, but you have to put the time in. That's the accountability side of it. So I turned it quickly away from the comparison to, no, this is about you. This is about me and what we can do together. Right. I just think that's the right way to do it. I just agree with you. Would not compare your kid to any other kid on the team in a negative way. It just like you don't do that with siblings. Not supposed to do that with siblings either.
Yeah, I also think that we have to step back sometimes as parents and just understand that your kid, no matter what gym you build them and whatever skills coach you get them and whatever extra credit you help them and provide for them, is just not going to be as good as the other kid. And or maybe
true.
they're the best kid. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us as parents overall across the board, sports, academics, to allow our children to find the right path and to find what they excel at by their exploration, right? I can't even say that.
Exploration,
But
you got it.
Exploration.
You got it.
Just
Is that the little
finding,
Connecticut accent
finding
on there?
their way, and it's almost like I use it, and not only with my own kids, I'll do this even advising, when I'm working with other athletes at every age. They're like, oh my God, I go, well, you've got to just find your role and be good at what you do. And maybe maybe you'll never score a goal. Maybe you'll never score a goal in high school, prep school, college. But what are you doing?
Right.
And why are you here? And if your role and your meaning on the team, because I think this is societally by in sports, because I'm around so many athletes in lacrosse and baseball and hockey and everything, that we're just losing the ability for kids to have roles, and for parents just to say, man, you worked hard today, or hey, you didn't work that hard, but maybe you're just not a hardworking kid. So that's who you are. You either own that or you do something about that. But I don't know if it's 10 minutes after a game that you're having that conversation.
Well, I'll also say this too with that, Mike, is that, the lazy kid today might not be the lazy kid 5 years from now. Like we all have to go through that.
You don't know what sparks them. You don't know. And
right.
The super competitive kid today who you keep driving and
burnt. Yeah.
Burnt out. And I often say it's easier to burn a kid out than inspire a kid. Yeah. It's hard to get a kid. It's hard to get a kid that's not that kid. I used to make a good living giving lessons to 14 and 15-year-olds with parents that said, can you get my kid tougher? Yeah, I could do that. 8 weeks, twice a week, but I couldn't. I can't make that kid tougher. That person is who they are. Now, can you inspire and find ways? It's hard though. It's hard, but it's so easy to dim the light.
Right.
It's easy. It's easy just to take a kid in the car and beat them down to a point where they can't find their path, because you're trying to find their path for them. And I know maybe it's a little off topic of the car conversation, but think about 27 weeks of car conversations.
Yeah.
That they're same. Like I say this in skating class, right? If you have a really bad coach that doesn't teach proper skating for 22 weeks, you're going to be a really good bad skater, right? So if you want to be a miserable person and a kid that doesn't know how to find a role and doesn't know how to play within another coach's system and another coach's bench and another teammate's adversity and their challenges, then just keep doing the same thing. Coach sucks, players suck, you're the best, they don't know how to use you. Let's go to another team next year. And you see that over and over and over again.
I want to say this too. You're actually making me think about this, Mike. You just said, 27 weeks in the car. It's 27 opportunities, right? And it's fun. And again, you just made me think about this. I promise you, this was not something I planned before the episode. In the new book that Christie and I wrote, When Hockey Stops, my dedication is to my father. Now, I'll say this right away. Both of my parents were extremely influential to me in their own way, and in different times. But the car rides with my father to and from games, looking back at them now, are sacred to me, because I learned so much from those conversations over 6 years, right? I mean, really a lot of things. And I'm so thankful for those conversations, because it was like, I don't want to say it was like being with a therapist, but it was just like, I needed that time with my father. And I grew up a lot in the car because of those conversations. I'm talking the good times, the bad times, the ones in the middle. So parents, that's one thing I do want to say. These car rides are a major opportunity for you to parent. And it's very hard. Mike, you were kind of alluding to this. It's so hard not to make it about what you want it to be about. It's not about you. I get it. I get it as a coach. I want to tell my kids all the things that I'm feeling, but is that right? Is that what he needs in that moment? Or is that what she needs in that moment? You got to check yourself a little bit. The other thing we should bring up here, friends, is that not just the ride after the game, right? It's the ride to the game too. There's 2 car rides here, and the one to the game is a little probably different than the one the way. And I want to go back to that a minute too, because I want to talk about good stuff too, about what to do on the rides and the rides home. on the game, I've seen this. I've seen parents get in the car. All right, we got an hour drive. Let's talk about the game for the first few. Don't talk to them about the game right when they get in the car. They're going to forget about it halfway down the road. What I try and do, and I love you guys' topics on there, thoughts on this. Keeping in mind, again, my kid's a mite, right? He's just starting. He's not an older player. I make sure I don't say anything in the car, right? What music do you want to hear? I just try to make it a relaxing environment for him. But when we're about 5 minutes out, because that's just me and him at that time, usually it's not the whole team around, he's not distracted, I'll just give him the one or two things that I want him to think about, right? As his coach and as his father, like, hey, Logan, today I want you to remember, you got to keep your feet moving. Good things happen when you keep your feet moving. And I want to make sure that, you're back on defense. That's it. Just very simple. That's what I'm thinking about today. And that's it. I don't go beyond that, just to kind of click that, okay, we're at the game now. We're at the rink now. You do need to start focusing, because I think that's an important life lesson as well, right? It's like, we're here to do this now. You need to focus a little bit on this. I don't want to talk about your video games right now. I want to talk about that we're going into the game. And like I said, it's a focus thing for me. I want him to know, like, when you show up at a place to do something, you have to know that you got to switch your brain a little bit. All right. That's what I do with my kid on the ride there. I'm sure there's some parents that do absolutely nothing on the ride. I'm sure there's parents that are coaching the entire way there and like, yeah, okay, when we're in the 113, you got to do this. And the kid's just in the back with his headphones on. Like, I don't know.
Because you're going to a game, you're so positive. Everything's positive. Right. There's nothing like usually you're going to a game and there's like not many people will start with, remember yesterday, how horrible that was. Right. Like, don't think about that. Oh, all right.
Thanks. Don't think about elephants, everybody.
Because everything's positive. I mean, I go up to Christie's neck of the woods all the time. I go driving up to Pulaski, New York to do some salmon fishing. Me and my buddy are in the truck. We're driving up. We got coffee. We got music going. Can't wait. The fishing's great. The water level's perfect. We're going to have a killer time. This is the best weather I've ever seen in my life. You've got to see our rides home. I mean, they are absolutely miserable, silent. You're cold, haven't caught any fish. It was terrible. The food was bad. The sleeping was bad because you didn't, everything was negative, right? And I think it's the same way as a hockey trip. I try to do, but at the same time, Lee, it's like, and I try to do the same thing, driving with the kids and like, just, okay, just, and my son's younger, the other one, right? So I try to use that, there's a couple of guys I follow and, guys like Brant Berglund and stuff like that. They're like, I kind of get my kid in the car and say, hey, remember, be like a hawk today. Don't let that puck out of your sight. You remember to be like a hawk, be great teammate, really be a good teammate. And then I'll try to throw in something like, and remember, there's absolutely no smiling. Do not laugh. Hockey's a tough sport and you gotta be a tough kid. And he'll laugh and he was like, see, I'm smiling. And
zero fun, sir. Yeah.
You cannot have fun. If you have fun and I see you having fun out there, I got to pull you off the ice. This isn't a fun experience. You got to make sure that you're busting your ass. Right? And then, cause they know, right. It's like you give them a little, like, because I don't want, I don't know. I don't want, it's playtime. This is play. Totally. Like there's not any time to think about work. But there is, I get the focus part because I think kids are way too distracted anyway. Like, I mean, I have kids on my team, my current team, my 14-year-old team, that they're on their phones 5 minutes before a game playing Tetris or something. I'm like, how do you even?
You see, I wouldn't be okay with that.
No, I'm not okay with it. But I'm like, how do you? I look and go, how are you not in? Because that's me. Now, maybe that player, I don't know. Maybe that's how they get involved. I'm in a kind of
I don't know. See, and this is where we can discuss this. That bugs me at any age. And I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with like I don't like a player says, well, this is how I relax before a game. And it's like, okay, look, I want you to be relaxed before the game, but here's the deal. You're not going to be able to go in your boss's office after college and sit there with your phone. It's like, so again,
they might though, Lee. They might. I mean, right now. That's right now. I think that this is the problem these kids see, right? There's people at work right now. I mean, I could be playing Call of Duty right now. You wouldn't even know it. Right. Like, I mean,
that man's playing Galaga. He didn't think we saw him, but we did. No,
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So the mental part is like, I remember when I grew up, it was like everyone went in the locker room. It was one boom box,
right?
And everybody listened to the same music. And then it kind of swayed to, okay, head kids.
Yeah, that's what it was for me too. But that environment was created. So listen, this is what I'll say, because like at risk of not sounding like an old man myself, is just look, you have to create the environment in the locker room as a coach. Again, I don't want to get too far away from the car, but I do say that, like, if you create an environment where the kids aren't focused, they're going to do whatever they want. Even with our Mike team, they know, okay, a few minutes before the game, coaches bring us together. We have to get focused. And again, they're 7-8 years old. So I get a lot of kids looking off into the distance, but they do know that we have to talk to them. But listen, that's another episode. Let's rewind back to the car.
But I think you're right though. The parent in the car preparing that player to be in that mode is a huge piece of it. So if that's a parameter you set up,
I'm
like
offering it to them. That's how I feel like, I'm offering it to them. Like, hey, let's just get focused.
That's what I mean. But I think every parent can help their coach and their son or daughter be a good teammate when they say, hey, listen, when you walk in, be the person that's not the distraction. Be the person that's talking about hockey, and be the one that's saying, hey, let's go, guys. I can't wait to play today. This is going to be a great day. Like you can, even little kids, 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds can be that light, but you can help create that light in the car.
Totally agree. And I'll tell you this too, is that it's about repetition. I think the biggest lesson I've learned from coaching this year is, and I got to preface this, I'm so used to being able to tell a player something once or twice and they get it and they do it and they're on to it. Keeping in mind too, that, at the college and professional level, that's what happens. Like they're into it. This is a job or it's something they're really into. And I had to really learn to be patient with my kids it might take 15 times for them to learn something. You might have to tell them 15, 20 times for them to even pick up on it. And then I started applying that to the larger picture of, if I'm in the car and I tell my kid to be focused, well, this year it might not work, but what happens when he's on a U14 team or a U16 team is maybe it'll click then that after 10 years of repetition, like he's figured it out. And now he has a life skill. All right. Then if he doesn't, he doesn't. I think about this from the broader point of view of what are the life skills I'm trying to, because here's the truth, guys. I don't care what the score is at the end of any of my kids' Mike games. I don't care. I just want to make sure they played well, had fun, and are competitive. And actually the team has been playing mostly well to the point of, I don't even know the score most times now because they're just playing well. That's all I care about. I will say this too, before you leave the car on the ride to the game. And I will always say this. All right. And I do get flack for this, if you can believe it. The most important message I give my child, and this is something passed down to me by my father. No matter what happens, I will love you after this game. I don't care what you do out there. I will love you after this game. I want him to understand that my value set for him as his father has nothing to do with the outcome of the game. Now, I've had people say you're going to soften him. No, this isn't softening. I don't want him to be afraid to get in the car after the game because he made a mistake. That to me, that is not worth any of this to me. All right. I want my kid to go to bed knowing I love him every day. If that's soft for you, that's fine. You guys have to have your own journey here. I actually think that that's strength to be able to tell my kid that. All right. Now, with that said, I don't just blurt it out all the time. I just want him to know, no matter what happens today, I love you. Go have a good game, skate hard, be focused, do your best. Right. I expect those things too, but it's not affecting my love for you. Right. We always tell our kids when they're younger, yeah, we all have this conversation with our younger kids. I might get mad at you, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. We've all said that at least once in our life. It's the same thing.
This punishment hurts me more than it hurts you. Trust me.
It totally does. Listen, I'm learning that this year more than any other time in my life. I want you guys to do. I've had to discipline my son more than ever before. He's 8. He's pushing back, and it sucks. I know all of you out there listening. It sucks. I've called my own parents and be like, I'm sorry for when I was 8. I love you. Like, it's okay, but I'm glad that it's happening because we wanted you to have one like you, and now you have it. It's a gift. That's how those conversations go. But no, it hurts. It does hurt. Everyone listening right now is like this, like, yes, it does.
I agree.
Yeah. If you take enjoyment in that, it's weird. Anyway, so Christie,
something
go ahead.
Interesting. And this is all just coming to me and because you brought it up, Lee, and I was just now thinking about it when we were kids, we had a big family, big Italian family. There were 8 of us. Every night we had to sit at the table and have dinner together. And that was our way of just sharing what happened in our days, what was on our minds, fears, anxieties. And I tried as hard as I could to keep that with my own kids, but then along came hockey. We were very rarely at the dinner table during the week and on the weekends. So the dinner table disappears pretty much, and it becomes the car ride. The car ride has now become like our dinner tables. And we've tried over the years to make that as close to those dinner table conversations growing up that we had as kids with our kids. And they turn out to be really fruitful conversations. And just like you, Lee, with your dad, my children have great memories and really love those cars. And they'll bring it up once in a while. Or, oh, remember the car ride where we, this happened or that happened. And you really can use that opportunity to bond with your kids. So remember that, parents. You don't have to turn it into teachable moments, but you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's one of the things we do in my house at the dinner table. And again, I'm sorry that you said it disappeared, but we definitely do that now. And we're in a position to do it now.
But it can be realistic when they're in high school.
Well, okay. That's what I was going to get towards is that, but we're establishing it now that it's important. You know what I mean? And I think it's super important that you establish that with your family. Look, I'm going to go two places with this real quick. One is that I know someone whose parents did not do that, and they'd never remember having a family dinner together ever. And all I can say is it's been detrimental to their family bond. All right. The kids were always let to do whatever they want. Parents ate separately from the kids. So I think establishing a family dinner, again, we're getting off topic a little bit here, is very important because it establishes, hey, we need family time. Right. And then you just applied it to something else. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Right. But you do have to establish that really early on. I think that is, in my opinion, gotta say this, I'm not like an expert. One of the biggest mistakes we make right now as families is we've lost the family dinner where everybody's on their phone with the cell phone. I'm sorry, at the table on their cell phone. It is so important that you spend that 20, 30 minutes with your family every day. Right. What's the point if you're not? Like, again, we all have to, decompress at the end of the day. But my kids know, no, at dinner, there's no phones, no work. This is our 20 minutes together. Sometimes it feels forced a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's important. As I talked about earlier about repetition. Same thing with the car rides. Christy, you just alluded to this, right? The car rides was very important with me and my father. It was extremely important to me. I cannot tell you all how much I learned on those car rides with my dad, right? I want to say again, I had that with my mother too in other avenues. Okay. I was very fortunate to have that time with my father. So if you're looking at a car ride, just bringing this episode back in, what are you going to do at that time? And I'll say this too. Sometimes the right thing is to do nothing. Sometimes the right thing is to let your kid put their music on, chill out, relax, do what they got to do, especially after the game. Right. I think about this too, Mike. I want to ask you this. I was telling the coaches, or I always tell myself, don't coach the kids on the ice, coach the kids on the bench. Right. And you got to kind of apply this to the car. It's like, well, don't coach in the car, coach at home. Right. The kid's going to come up to you at some point. If you have something, this is what I've been working on myself. If I have something I feel like I have to go over with my son, right. I kind of make a mental note and I wait till we're home. And then later on, I'll bring him down to the basement and say, I just want to work on this with you real quick because of X, Y, Z. All right. Sometimes he responds to it. Sometimes he doesn't. Here's another one. I've heard parents, well, if I don't tell them, I'm not going to remember. Nah, not today. Get a notebook. You have a phone, write down a note. If it's that important to you, write it down. We talked about the 24-hour rule. Write it down. If you still feel super strongly about it, even after the ride home, it doesn't even have to be 24 hours. And you feel like you have to say something, then do it. But let the kid cool off. All right. Another thing I want to get into, Mike, want your thoughts on this is, let's say your kid makes a huge mistake in the game, right? I think, Mike, you brought this up. And let's just say it's not a missed pass opportunity. Let's say your kid got angry and two-handed someone or got a checking from behind penalty, something really rough, right? Most kids do this at least once in their time playing, some kids more. And you're mad as their parent because it was disrespectful, it was wrong, and it was embarrassing for you as a parent. Happens, right? What do? Right? Now, let's paint a few scenarios here, Mike. One is the kid gets in the car and he's happy about it. I hit this kid from behind. All right. Yeah, I got him out of the game. All right. He's going to get a talking to from me at that point if he's gloating. All right. 9.5 times out of 10, kid knows what they did was really wrong. Really wrong. They probably spent some time in the box. Coach probably already gave him an earful. All right. Mike, how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, so I have to look at it from, I guess I try to look at all these kind of things in so many different lights because more than half, much more than half of the parents that I'm going to be working with, right, with their kids, really don't know anything about the game of hockey. I mean, they know nothing. I mean, and they'll self-admittedly say that until they have until they have their own opinion on something, right?
Yeah, I've heard parents say that.
They're like, I really don't even know. Like, they're in your hands. Like, I have no idea what I should be looking for here. I do know though that unsportsmanlike conduct and bad behavior and poor sportsmanship those you don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be a parent of an athlete. You don't have to be an ex-athlete. You just see it, right? And I think so. I always kind of try to look at that in a number of ways. I'm probably more of the, hey, that was pretty bad. We got to learn from that. You could really hurt somebody.
Right.
And you're the one that's going to, you know, hopefully if you're not a psychopath, that you're going to be the person that feels pretty badly about that. If you're kind of getting in the, well, you're, if, but if you're getting in the car and you're like, oh, if you're the parent and the kid agreeing that ripping that kid from behind, almost breaking their neck and feeling good about it, then, you know, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even have a conversation for you really, but I do have, but if you're a parent that says, wow, you know, that was a really bad situation to put yourself into. It didn't look like you did it on purpose, but you have to understand something. You know, there is respect for your teammates and respect for your opponent. Right. And if you really want to get that kid back, you know what a real tough guy does? A real tough guy lets somebody see what they're going to do to him. And you know, you want to punch somebody in the mouth and you're 18 years old, go ahead. I mean, I don't know, but if you're going to rip a kid from behind without him knowing about it, I'm not a big fan of that. And, you know, because, you know, I think we have to remember, you know, hockey is you know, this is around Super Bowl time, right? Hockey, like other sports, is violent. It's just a violent sport. It is. So when you jack up the level, and I'm talking about an 8-year-old, you know, telling a kid, hey, go punch a kid in the face. I'm talking about when kids have to be tough though, and they have to understand that there are consequences. So if you're going to do that, don't forget, you're going to get hunted down. And there's going to be, because there's just the same mentality of you feeling it's so good to hit that kid from behind is there's kids on other teams that say, right, I'm going to hit this kid from, like, wait, especially if you're
parents too. There's parents
if you're in a league,
this stuff.
No doubt about it. And I think, you know, that's going to be hey, you want your pound of salt, or you're going to get it. Here's the 2 games you play this kid. You're going to hunt him down, and we're going to show him, you know, what you did was wrong. I think all those scenarios are wrong, by the way. Yeah. But
well, they don't help your team.
It doesn't help your team, but it's a violent game. It's a violent sport. But there is a level of the fact that we have to have decorum, and we have to be in the coach, the parent, the player, the officials, league administrators. We're all responsible for that. But I think, but we're talking about just the car ride home. There has to be a conversation about accountability, right? Safety, knowing that this is another human being, probably a peer, and that, you know, I understood your frustration there, but we got to be smarter about, you know, how we're making those plays.
Well, how about this? How about life's not fair too? Like that's another big life lesson. Like life's not fair, right? That sometimes things are going to happen to you that put you down on your knees, and you have to get up and you have to be mature about it. You have to be an adult about it. And if you want to get back, there are ways to do that. That don't involve hurting the other person. You know, here's a quick one.
Real quickly, just 1 second too. Conversely to that, the kid that got hit from behind or got slashed or got two-handed, that's a teachable piece too. Right. That, you know, how to protect yourself, where not to put yourself in vulnerable situations. Saying, well, I don't know, he did that to you, but I mean, you kind of provoked him. I mean, I said, what were you doing there? Like, why, you know, because this is the way I teach. when I teach players like safety and how not to put themselves in places to get hurt, especially hitting from behind, the person that hits you from behind is not thinking they want to kill you. They really aren't. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's just the game. It's happening. The numbers are there. It's a push. It's a trip. I fell. It's reactionary. You spun off. So you, as the person who ends up getting injured, needs to have a level of, well, what position are you putting yourself into? Right. But I think it could go both ways in that conversation. And again, I don't know if that's the 5-minute car ride home, but it's a longer conversation about, you know, I watched you get hit there from behind yesterday.
I have to jump in here. This did happen once with one of our kids. I won't out them. They know who they are.
You know who you are. You know who you are.
And in the car, it was a very short conversation. John basically said, that ever happens again, you're done. Right. Done. And guess what? Never happened
again. Sometimes that's the best way to handle it. And, you know, look, one more thing I want to add on this in the car ride home is I've heard this from people I've played with, that their parents have said this. And I'm going to I'm going to try and run through this quickly. If you've ever thought this or said this, well, that kid will get theirs in the end. Feels good to say it. It's a complete waste of your time and your kid's time. Whether or not and this is not just a hockey, whether or not the person that wronged you gets theirs in the end is so irrelevant, and it is a waste of time that you take enjoyment in somebody else being in pain. I know, again, if you're mad at someone, it might seem like, oh, that's what I want. It's a waste of your time. You need to focus on you, or your kid needs to focus on themselves and how they're going to respond. I remember one time I was incredibly wronged by someone, devastated. And somebody said that to me, well, they'll get theirs in the end. And I remember thinking, what does that have to do with me? How's that going to help me? So, okay, another person that wronged me will be in pain. Okay. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not that I wanted that. I didn't care. Right. It was just like, all right, that's not going to get me out of the situation that I'm in. I have to act. And I remember that because that was a spark moment for me for the rest of my life of, I'm not going to worry about what happens to anybody else. I don't care if they get a punishment handed to them. That's going to happen the way it is. I don't control it. I can only control myself. That's a message that I want to give my kid in the car. Yeah. And it happens on the bench all the time. It might level. Well, the kid hit me. Yeah, that's hockey. You're going to get hit in this game. It wasn't fair. You got to get back up and get out there. That's what you can control. I tell my 8-year-olds that. Right. So, again, a lot of different topics happening here. One I want to spin to before we get out of here, Christy, is because you just experienced something this weekend. Here's something that can happen. We talked about the ride to the game, positive, negative. We talked about the ride home from the game, mostly negative. What we haven't talked about is the ride home after a great game, because that can be detrimental too if you don't know what you're doing. All right. If it's a great game, in my opinion, the right way to do it is great game. You did so much good stuff today. The team won today. Together, you won. That's great. That's the good stuff. But Christy, this weekend, you were hearing parents say stuff after the game, a Mike game. Oh. I want you to tell the people what you said, because it's kind of disgusting.
One of the parents, they were so excited that their little 8-year-olds won. They didn't just win. I mean, the other team, they crushed them basically. And they were bragging about it. Yeah, our kids, well, they even stopped keeping score. But I was keeping score. I think we ended up 22-0. And they were laughing and they were taking such, pleasure.
Enjoyment. Say it. They were enjoying it. Like,
they were loving that they crushed this other team, and our kids are so great. And it's like, well, did you kind of ease up? Maybe have them work on the passing. Why would we do that? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because that's good sportsmanship.
Right.
It didn't dawn on them that they were just relishing it. And I thought, it was just so distasteful. I had to go outside and cool off because I just couldn't be around those people.
And here's the deal.
On the
car ride home.
That Italian temper was starting to foil. And I was like, I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. So I just walked outside, cooled off, came back. And then there were some really nice parents that came by, which calmed me down a little bit. But it's like, what are you people doing? Stop. Your kids are 8. They shouldn't be crushing other teams 22-0. Stop that.
Here's the other thing, Christy. I guarantee you on the car ride home, those same parents, like, you scored 6 goals today. You were so great today. You were awesome today. Let me tell you why that's bad. Now, again, look, I'm not against complimenting your kid if they have a great game. So please don't take anything about to say that way. If your kid played great, you can say, hey, you played really well today. This is the problem. When you start going 7 goals and you beat them 20-0, and that was great. Now you've just set an incredibly unrealistic expectation for this kid moving forward. Now, when they win 4-3, it wasn't good enough. How many of you have been in this position? Mike, I know you've been in this position. It's a tie game. Late in the game, your kids are demoralized because it's tie. That's the game you want to be in. I tell my kids, you want to be in the 1-goal game. That's the game when it's close and it's hard. The 20-0 game or the 10-5 game, those suck. I hate those games. All right. Mm-hmm. You want to be in the close game. The reason the kids feel like that in a game like that is because they have not been properly mentally taught how to deal with adversity. When you're winning 20-0, again, good compliments are there, but like, hey, not every game is going to be like that. Not only that, what happens when you reverse it? Because your kid's going to get beat to 20-0 at some point. It's going to happen. It's a teachable moment. It's a teachable moment. Yes, you dominated that team. That was excellent. But just remember XYZ, Mike, I look like you want to say something here. that one always bugged me, right? Like you want to be in the close games. You want to be in the competition. That's what this is all about for me, right? What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, no, just experienced it this weekend and won one game against a team that was, ranked above us. And I'm like 16 minutes left in third period. I'm like, this is perfect. I mean, where else do you want to be on a Saturday night when you're a 14-year-old in a competitive battle? Right. And then thinking, well, who's gonna work harder? Who's gonna be smarter? Who's gonna be more disciplined? Who's gonna stay out of the box? Who's gonna lead the team? Who's gonna take a big big hit? Who's gonna block a big shot? Who's gonna make a big save? You don't get those experiences in 20-1. You get showboating. You get me. I watched a high school game this weekend. I couldn't believe it. The team's winning like 8-1, and the kids are still the top kids are still going on the ice in a deep bench. Teaching again, I get the winning, and this has nothing to do with like having to score a certain amount of goals to be ranked higher or have a better seed. This is just showboating. This is like me. Look, I scored. Like watching players score and then go to the corner by themselves and give them the old like whatever this is now, or the listen, whatever it is, or the ring, all great. But I think, it's just to me. That's a byproduct of not having a culture that everyone on the team contributes to the win, even if there's a number of players that never contribute to the win physically.
Right. Like
they still are. If it's same thing with, so you're driving home in the car, Christy, your point, parents, it's 20-2. You think you're the greatest team in the world. And you're just, and the fact is really, if you really looked at those parents, I bet you, no doubt in my mind that if I looked at that game, there were 4 kids that contributed to that game. Right. Even in a 20-goal game, the kid that, like when I see these, like now the new thing on Twitter is they put like apples and sirens, right? The goals and assists. And you see like to me, this is not sport in a game where you see, a player has 9 goals and like an assist because it was a rebound and nobody else in the team has any points in a big win. I'm like, it's not a hockey team. It's just not realistic.
No, you're probably not going to win the big game when you play a team.
No, because at the end of the day, you need that game, right? If you're going to put your goalie in, your second string backup goalie in, after that, you think the game's well, like to me, if you're a really good team and you're a really good coach and you have a 5-goal lead, you can manage that 5-goal lead. You should be able to throw anybody else you want on the ice out there. You don't need it. Doesn't like when I watch a team winning 13-0 and then the backup goalie goes in, I'm like, this is, or whatever the other goal, the crappy goalie goes in. I'm like, this is nuts. Because that kid knows why he's going in.
Yeah, it's insulting at that point.
He knows, like, don't even put me in. Like, you only put me in because you're like, oh, now there's no way they could catch up to us.
Right.
I'm like,
Mike, that's a great point you
when
just
they
made,
can
Mike.
catch up to us. Like, put them in so I can fail or I can win. Like, give me a chance to be the person that decides my destiny, not hiding me and
appeasing. It's appeasing. That's
we got to get that kid in. Oh, thank God, it's 16-0. There's no way they're gonna. And then you see the goal. They'll score like 2 goals, and they'll pull the kid because the coach is not a coach.
I hate that. I've seen that over and over and over again.
It's so. If I was a parent, I swear I'd be like, well, first we go right back to where we all started, right? And saying, well, you got to pick the right coach and the right program, right? So you got to do your research. But if you're in that situation where all of a sudden this is systemic, I'd be like, what? Don't put yourself back in those situations. Be in a place where you're going to play and you're valued. And, it's funny. Like I was on a call with Bjorn Kindling, who's like this guy's like we'll have him on here one of these days. He's unbelievable. Right. And he'll be like, if you are on my team, you are valuable on my team. That means you will play some role. You'll be playing and contributing and being talked to and being coached up. You're going to be a member of the program. If not, I'm not taking you. Like, it's my obligation not to take you.
Right.
If I'm not going to play you. And at 8U, high school, you look at the high school kids show up for every practice. They give up everything. Imagine that, to get a jersey, Give me a break.
Well, Mike,
Play.
again, we're
It's a whole
starting
different
another
conversation,
episode
I
right
know
here.
that. Maybe that's
but
the bus ride home. Maybe
I
that's the
love
bus
what you
ride.
said. I love what you said. Just real quick. Again, this is off topic, but I don't care. I love that you said you should be able to manage a 5-goal lead if you're a coach. That's a really great point. Look, I'll just say this to the coaches listening. You can't fail your kids. You can't fail your kids. There can't be a kid on the team that feels insignificant. All right. They should all know the roles. The kid might not play much, but he should have a role, or she should have a role. No, but getting this back to car rides, because again, these conversations could go for 7 hours, and our audience would be very upset because they listen to everything that we do. No, but you're making a great point here about those situations. And Christy, I'm glad I asked you about this, because like you can give your kid the wrong message in the car after a win. All right. And I've seen this, like one of the things that I'm dealing with right now is, I try and teach respect when a game gets out of hand. All right. So like if we're up, my hockey's a little different, but if we're up 6-7, if we start to get to that point, and you know when your team is better, some people get on me about this, and I wrestle with it in my head, but the kids start celebrating when they score still. And I'm like, no, it's supposed to be fun, but that's disrespectful. And I have to teach this lesson. Right. So a kid will celebrate. I said, I don't want you to celebrate like that after you score. Now, if the kid on the team that never scores in a game like that, they can celebrate. The kid who never gets a goal, I'm okay with them celebrating, because that's a team accomplishment in my mind at that point. But when the kid,
I want to come back to that one. Think of that one point. Think about that one point, right? Think about that one point for a second. I want to think about that as well, because the other team doesn't know that's the kid's first goal. Yeah. So you have to to me, like a lot of, and I've experienced this multiple times for 27 years, 30 years, but prepare all the kids to know,
right?
If Benelli scores, who hasn't scored a goal all year, it can't be like we won the Stanley Cup, because that other team doesn't. That's it's almost as disrespectful as passing the puck around. Now, I think this is where the model's broken, and this is a whole nother conversation, but you should be able to have a conversation with another coach on another team that says, this game it's now over. It's 8-0 at the end of the first period. What can we do to make this a better experience? Right. Can we give you our goalie? Can we switch goalies? Can we give you a couple of defense? This is where the model, I get why people don't do it, and people think that something's wrong with me, but I'd rather see that solution and grow both programs than to see me say, well, we're going to keep it at like 16-17-0.
Right. Well, Mike, that's because it's not about you when you coach. And that's the larger issue here, is that there's a lot of ego involved with all these conversations that we're talking about, right? Like, a lot of people identified through those 16-0 wins, and it's a problem.
Right.
All right. And again, this, because I'm going to keep reeling you back into the car ride thing, because you're passionate today and I love it. But look, at the end of the day with the car ride, guys, it is a little bit of an ego thing, right? Like, are you speaking to hear yourself talk, or are you speaking because you really want to share a lesson with your child? And that's what it comes down with me. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm guilty of this. I've been coaching a long time, and sometimes I'm just talking because I want to say what I want to say, and I want to hear myself say it. And it's not okay for my son. I need to be more cognizant of that. I'm admitting that because it's okay to admit it. Like, nobody here is a perfect hockey parent, that they don't exist. All right. You can just grow and learn. But yeah, again, Mike, to your point, Christy, to this subject, after a big win, it's the same thing. What are the life lessons here? Well, we could have been a little more respectful. And this is the car ride home. Could have been a little more respectful. I don't think you should celebrate after your 5th goal when the team is winning like that. Okay. If it's a close game, you can celebrate. All right. Yeah. If Benelli, who hasn't scored all year, gets a goal, there's a way to celebrate that too. You pat her on the back, and let's go back to the bench. We'll talk about it on the bench. Coaches, it's your job to teach that. Because here's the deal. Another thing I say to my kids, and again, I think people look at me like I'm crazy. I say, what do you think the other team felt like when they were losing 20-0? Oh, it's a buzzkill to say that. No, it's a life lesson. This is a teachable moment. You can still be happy. What do you think the other team felt like when they were losing? Because here's the thing, guys, it's going to happen the other way at some point. All right. I'm not saying you go soft. There's nothing about being soft. It's just being respectful. Yeah. Right. This is just respect. Okay. When you're winning like that, be respectful. Parents bragging about a 20-0 win. What are we doing? What is the life
and I'll tell you, I'd almost be okay, not okay, but I'd almost understand if it's the kids, because they're the ones that did it.
Right.
But what did mom and dad do? Just give sperm?
You paid for it.
I mean, what did they do?
Yeah.
They didn't do anything.
Yeah. It's gonna be a great ride home. The other thing too, well, in my last example, and then we'll kind of round this out, is blaming the refs. Oh, the ref made a bad call. The ref made a bad call, or that team was dirty. Like I was watching a game recently, and I didn't. This is self-restraint. I didn't say a word. I was watching a game recently, and I know the parents are complaining about how quote unquote dirty the other team is and how bad the refs are. And you know what? I'm watching the game, and every hit, everything, the kids fall down, look at the ref, fall down, look at the ref. Now you're not even playing the game. And then you hear the same parents, get up, get over, get going. Yeah. It's your fault that they're doing that. You're rubbing off on them and you don't realize it. And again, we're all guilty of this, myself included to some form. But if you're telling your kids and not making them accountable every time, I hate when the kids keep looking to the ref. I hate it. Refs doing the best they can, hopefully. All right. And if they're not, that you can't do anything about.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So you got to play the game. Now, don't get me wrong. All right. There are some situations. I'll admit this. Some situations are just ridiculous. But at the end of the day, you got to keep going. Look, I have seen games where a kid has scored, obviously, and the ref did not see it, and the puck bounces out and they keep playing. It's not fair. Neither is life. That's the lesson. That is the lesson. But we lost on that. That's life. That's the lesson. It sucks. Accept it. We got to move on. But it was a championship game and we lost everything. That hurts a lot. That's life. You got to move on.
I usually tell those parents that, listen, we can fix that. We'll get instant replay. You'll all get the bill for an extra $4,000 a year each.
Go to Toronto.
And we'll have video review for every game. I think it's great. Video review. Perfect. But we're just in a world of, that I saw it. Look, I have it on my camera. Look, here it is. Don't you see the goal?
I went on hockey TV.
I watched it afterwards. I'm like, guys, it's over. Like, so I don't know. It's
too much.
But the car ride home, it's over. And the only advice I give any of my, and I try to take it is the one thing we never talk about is the coulda, woulda, shouldas. And if you want to have a conversation about the game, let's have a conversation about the game. Right. But don't give me if we could have done this and we would have done that, we should have beat that team. No. That team won. That we tied. We won. That team won. There's no coulda, woulda, shouldas. Just understand. I love Wally Kozak, right? He has that terminology that you either win or you learn, right? You win or you learn. And if you're learning, great. And let's move on. And I think that's what's great about sport is we get to hopefully get to keep playing it and getting better.
Time to mention it. This is just a game. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and it's the life lessons that you take out of it that are the real win. This is true for even NHL players. Again, do you want your child when they are 27 years old, potentially not playing the game anymore, for something bad to happen to them and then go, it wasn't my fault. If this guy had just done this better, or this girl had just done this better, I wouldn't be in this position. It's not my fault. And I hate this. Or do you want the child that says, this is a tough break and it really hurts. I'm really hurting, but I'm going to get back up. I'm going to find a way forward and I'm not going to fear failure. Your ride with your kid for as long as they play any game is your opportunity to teach them that life skill that will get them better for later on. That is what I think about in the car. Even when I talk to my kid, I'm thinking about that, even if I shouldn't talk to him. All right. It is an opportunity to help your child learn life skills. That's it. And if you don't think the pros do this, they just do it on their own. When the best players in the world make a mistake, and we heard this from a lot of people that we've interviewed, they don't dwell on it and blame the ref. They figure out a way to get better at it. Sidney Crosby, I'll use him. I don't like using the best players, but Sidney Crosby sucked at faceoffs. He was horrible at them his first couple of years. Spent a whole offseason getting better at it, right? Like no one had to tell him. Where do you think he got those life lessons from? He's gifted. Don't get me wrong. Where do you think he heard that? He'll tell you. My parents taught me that. My parents. I don't see pro players that was my ref did it and they screwed us and we're not going to, they don't make it, guys. They don't make it to the show. All right. And if they do, nobody likes them because there's one or two players out there that probably like that. Anyway, listen, we're going to close this. Christy, drive us home, Christy. Drive us home to end this episode.
Here we go. You ready?
Don't tell us how bad the episode was. Don't dwell on the episode.
Car rides don't have to be teachable moments at all. In fact, they can be memorable moments. How's that?
How are we going to top that, Mike?
You can't.
They can't top that. That's so well put. We could have just done that at the beginning of the episode and not had the episode.
Why do we even have this conversation?
Put a nice little bow on it. At the
No, I
end.
think that's good. Mike, I'm good to end on that. I'm going to end it on that. So listen, another great conversation. And I want to say it again to those of you listening. That's all we're doing. We're having great conversations. We're all at different points of the game. We've all different experiences in the game. But I think that I said this at the top, the coolest thing I hear from those of you listening, and we get emails and messages, is that, wow, I thought I was alone in that, but I'm not in that thought. I didn't realize that. I'm learning so much. That means more to the three of us than I think anything else, right? The fact that, we know there's people out there that needed this, and we created the show we wish we had. And like I said, it's therapy for all three of us. We talk about this, and Christie's daughter's playing Division I NCAA hockey. It's therapy for her too. We have this all the time, but that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Another wonderful one, guys. So for Christy Casciano, Burns, and Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. Remember, you can check out all of the episodes on ourkidsplayhockey.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Subscriptions, 5-star reviews, all of that's great. It really helps us out. And make sure to check out Christy and I's new book, WhenHockeyStops.com. Get an advanced copy right now before it comes out. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll see you next time on Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.